for me, it started as it starts in many Parkinson's patients when you hear their story. It started with the twitching of the thumb. And so when your thumb is twitching, you're just like, well, my thumb is twitching. And then my shoulder started to droop, and my gait changed, so my shoulder wasn't able to swing when I was walking. The doctor thought I probably had a pinched nerve in my neck, so they did some x-rays and MRIs to see if that was something that caused that. And then from there, you know, I went from doctor to doctor because my symptoms kept changing.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about a disease that affects roughly 1 million Americans. It's Parkinson's. And I mean, including members of my family, so many Americans have been affected and their lives have been often devastated. My next guest is a good friend of mine who's tirelessly championed and raised money to find a cure for Parkinson's. Please welcome Donna Rajkovic.
Hi.
Donna, thank you for joining us.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. Of course. First of all, you know, I'll tell you, it's amazing. I've been inspired by your story, but tell us, it took you a long time to get diagnosed. How long did it take?
It took about 3 years. So about 10 years ago is when I first started having symptoms. But because of the age at the time, the doctors weren't able to diagnose that.
And as we were talking about in previous segments, that, you know, there's so many symptoms that are subtle that people often have difficulty diagnosing the disease. And she was what I call a health hero, and she said, you know what, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to find a reason why. And you were super young when you had this, much younger than most people. Tell us about that and how people were confused by that.
So for me, it started as it starts in many Parkinson's patients when you hear their story. It started with the twitching of the thumb. And so when your thumb is twitching, you're just like, well, my thumb is twitching. And then my shoulder started to droop, and my gait changed, so my shoulder wasn't able to swing when I was walking. The doctor thought I probably had a pinched nerve in my neck, so they did some x-rays and MRIs to see if that was something that caused that. And then from there, you know, I went from doctor to doctor because my symptoms kept changing.
Even though they were treating you for whatever they thought,
yes,
it continued to get worse.
My legs started to drag, my toes started to curl.
Did you actually see neurologists?
I saw several neurologists.
And they didn't diagnose Parkinson's?
No, no. It wasn't until I met this one neurologist that had me do a DAT scan of my brain, which a DAT scan measures the dopamine levels in your brain, and so there was not much dopamine on the left side of my brain.
And to me, I can't say this too strongly. Here's the thing, you know, if she had given up and said, oh, well, it's just a pinched nerve, it's not getting better, she would not be here today. I mean, I think you'd have had lots of other issues. And so it's being an advocate. One of the things we talk about in the Dr. Nandi show is that you have to be your own health hero. You have to be your own advocate. If you don't, don't try everything yourself, then oftentimes it's not going to get better. You have to remember that. You've had many, many challenges. You actually had a fall recently, didn't you?
Yes.
Tell us about that. What happened?
Well, so like Parkinson's is a progressive disease and changes. So for me, I've noticed I've been diagnosed for over 6 years now. So and being on the medications, I have started losing my balance a little bit. And so I did fall. I fell early in January, and then I fell a couple weeks ago as well. So it's just the shuffling of the feet and balance issues.
And here's the thing. I know Donna, and all of you are just meeting her. She'll fall, and then the next day, you're just back to, you know, being so positive. What is it about you that makes you keep going? And nobody will ever know how strong you are. Tell me about that.
Well, what keeps me going is, you know, one thing is my family, you know, being very active. My family is very involved. Also, to show up, to be an advocate for others with Parkinson's disease, because not everyone can have that voice to say, wow, here I am.
Or that strength. You have a lot of strength.
So, yeah.
And you got that little pin that you're wearing. It's super cool because it's got the Old English D, which I always love. Those of you who are not from Detroit don't know what that means, but it's the Old English D for Detroit. Tell me about this this organization, Team D and the Fox, right?
Yeah, Team Fox and the D.
Yeah, Fox and the D.
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So I have been with the Michael J. Fox Foundation for 6 years. I signed up to for the ppmi study. It's one of the studies that is a biomarker, measures the biomarker for Parkinson's. And so bringing an awareness to the community, the Metro Detroit area, Team Fox is one of the ways that we can bring awareness and raise money for research. And of course, I started the Team Fox in the D, and this was our 2nd year. We've had a gala, an event that we've raised money for research, and 100% of that money that we've raised is going to research. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're amazed by it, because the scenario is that you get an obstacle, instead you turn around and you want to help people. If there's a message you want to give people who've got Parkinson's or others with obstacles, what message would that be?
First of all, you know, I would say to own what you have and to make sure that you share your story, because your story is important. Also, I feel that physically, if you have Parkinson's or anything that you're struggling with, go out there and be physical, be active, force yourself on a daily basis to do something out of your comfort zone. You know, emotionally, share your stories and with your family. Don't keep it inside, because you don't know who else is going through the same things. Yeah.
Donna's reached out to so many thousands and now millions that'll see that being active, having a disease that affects your motion is amazing. Donna is now joined by Dr. Fernandez, the site's principal investigator and for the ppmi study and the director of the Center for Neurological Restoration at the Cleveland Clinic. That means you're really smart, Dr. Fernandez. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
Of course. So people are wondering, you know, why is a biomarker, first of all, what's a biomarker and why is it important in Parkinson's?
Sure, I think that's a very important question. A biomarker is a specific test that tells us whether a disease or a disorder is getting better or getting worse. I mean, it's simple as that.
Sure.
And unfortunately, in Parkinson's disease, we don't have that test. Once we have that specific marker, then we can track therapies better. It accelerates discovery of new treatments. We can do clinical trials at half the speed and half the cost.
Yeah, the thing we're talking about even before we started shooting is that this condition doesn't have something you can say, aha, that's what it is, and I've got the diagnosis, or I can tell if you're doing better or worse. And so that's why this would be such an important marker to say, okay, if this is going up or down or getting worse, then you know that the disease is progressing, we need to get more aggressive, or something to that effect. We don't have that now. Donna, why did you want to be part of this study?
So when I had the stat scan and discovered that I had the lack of dopamine on the left side of my brain, I heard about the ppmi study through the Michael J. Fox Foundation and went to Dr. Fernandez immediately, because to me research is the key.
Absolutely.
And education and research is how we will, you know, help us and our future.
What patients do you think would benefit from this?
Well, for the study itself, we enrolled as many patients as we can that were newly diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and we compared them to what we call age-matched controls.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we need to track them, and we need to do a clinical exam, collect biological specimens, and also do a lot of imaging tests, and to see if whatever these three outcomes that we measure, whether they track as they progress. But of course, there's also something that's progressing naturally, which is aging. And so we needed an age-matched control to see if what we're measuring is over and beyond what normal aging would do.
So what have you found, you know, in this study so far, doctor?
So we are just beginning to kind of uncover each of the results, because this has been going on for more than 5 years now. So now we can see the separation of normal aging and that of Parkinson's. And we haven't found the magic bullet, but there are certain substances. There are these proteins, misfolded clumps of proteins called alpha-synuclein that we see in Parkinson brains.
You know he's smart because he can pronounce that word, because most people out there wouldn't even be able to know. But please keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
we were banking on alpha-synuclein, that if we see this not inside the brain, because that's not very helpful while Donna is alive and everything, but more in other parts that we can access. So we looked at this clump of misfolded protein, and it just so happened to be seen in this spinal fluid as well. And although the level of alpha-synuclein did not track global progression, it did track progression in cognitive functioning. So at least we have hope that maybe certain biomarkers would be good for certain aspects of Parkinson's. And if we're lucky to get the one that gets the global one, then that's icing on the cake too.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
And so you're doing amazing things to be able to find, you know, better outcomes for people like Donna. Donna, how's it been being part of this study? What does it make you feel, and what has it been like to be in this study for people who are thinking about getting in this study?
Well, I encourage, you know, everyone to, if they can, you know, to participate in some sort of a study that, whether you have Parkinson's or not, all this information is going to help the foundation. I mean, now I have learned that the Michael J. Fox Foundation has 5 to 7 vaccines in the pipeline, which is never been before. So I feel very proud to participate and be part of that. Like I said, it's not a cure for myself, but for the future.
And we only have a little bit of time, but I want you to just to touch briefly on deep brain stimulation and just what that involves, and maybe just a little bit about who would benefit from that.
Sure. So deep brain stimulation is a fascinating surgical therapy for Parkinson's. What happens is this pacemaker, that same pacemaker that we put in the heart to regulate the rhythm of the heart, that's not kind of beating regularly.
Right.
We put that same pacemaker in the area of the brain that's misfiring for Parkinson's disease. And so the result of that is a more regulated firing, and it pretty much improves the tremor, the stiffness, the slowness. It's one of the best treatments we've ever discovered in this century.
And for more people with more advanced Parkinson's who are not responding to therapy, I'd like you to please go to the Cleveland Clinic, and we'll give you the website to go and look and find more information about this. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Partha Nandi, and if you enjoyed that video, you're going to love the next one. It's full of incredible information to help you start your health hero journey.